Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam Shruti-smriti-purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat-padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you once again for joining. It's a wonderful joy to be sharing some thoughts, some ideas with like-minded seekers who are all present today. Um, so today's title, The Heart of All Things, is inspired by my beloved teacher, Sri Narasimha Prabhuji, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, and Sri Ramana Maharshi. Of course, by all the other masters and sages in the lineage, right from Dakshinamurti and Sriman Narayana to the present day Sadguru. So at the very outset, I would like to offer the understanding and the session as a yajna to these great masters who have been guiding me on the path of spiritual journey. Sri Prabhuji is my light, my mentor, my guide, my teacher in Advaita Vedanta and Atma Vichara. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, whose I Am That book is a regular companion for me, for my meditations, and also to Sri Ramana Maharshi, whose path of self-inquiry has been a great source of inspiration. We all live in this world, and we all know the world is full of objects, isn't it? Now, scientists have clearly established that the majority of matter is space. They say, science says 99.999. If you are wondering how many nines are there after the decimal place, there are 12 nines and 6. So 99.95% of the matter is space. So what we consider as solid is not really solid. It is also believed by estimated in science that only one part in 10 to the power of 15 parts is matter, solid matter. The other 10 to the power of 14 parts in 10 to the power of 15 is space. But still, the matter appears solid. Solid both to light as well as to other objects. We can't penetrate matter so easily. If we try to go and bang a wall thinking that it is 99.95% space, we will hurt our hand. And the wall also doesn't allow light. So it's impervious to both light and other objects. This is the mystery of matter. Strange, isn't it? We think we know matter, we know objects very well. But if we investigate deeper into matter, we'll find that there is more and more of matter to be known. This is about when now, is the space empty or is it filled with something else? Is the big question that is the discovery, ongoing discovery of science. How does space still make matter solid? That's a major question mark. It is said that, the recent discovery is that the empty space is filled with electron cloud, which is basically a field created by the movement of electrons. And therefore, that field makes the matter appear solid, though essentially matter is filled with space. Interesting, isn't it? Now, so much about space and matter. This prompts us to think how much of solid that we see through our eyes is really solid. Is it empty? ಜಗತ್ತು ಟೊಳ್ಳು ಅಂತ ಸಾಧು ಸಂತರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. It is like a bubble. It can burst any time. But it appears very, very solid. So that is about matter and space. Now, look at the house which has solid walls. Is it really solid like we discussed? No, it's full of space. Then look at even people, the body, this body, human body, or the animal body, bodies of living beings. It appears very solid. But still it has minute microscopic pores. How do we know that? When we get an infection, the bacteria, the virus can easily pass through the solid skin, flesh, and bones and attack our internal organs, isn't it? And therefore, matter, whether it is gross, external matter of the objects of the world, or the matters of human being, which is the body and the mind, are all filled with space and space and space. Now, if this is about space in matter, there is one more interesting observation we can make about matter, about the objects. And what is that? That is about the movement and stillness. We see three objects that are shown here. The first is the car, and the tree, and then the living being represented as a human being. It could be animals, it could be birds, any living creature. Now, what do we make out of the first object, which is the car? It's absolutely inert, isn't it? And the quality, what is the quality of inert objects? By itself, its innate quality is to remain still, unless acted upon by an external force. The car will remain still. The rock will remain in the place where it is. The house doesn't move. The TV, the dining table don't move. It can move with the aid of external forces, either by humans or by machines or by energy sources. Now we need petrol or fuel, gasoline or fuel, diesel or electric power to run the car. You allow it to remain, it will remain as it is. Now, even in an inert object, like a car, like a table, chair, is it really still? What would you say? If we explore even the body of the car, metal piece, through a microscope and look at the atoms and the electrons are in a state of perpetual motion, isn't it? Hmm? So, what appears still on the outside, within itself, there is a lot of activity going on. Why? Internal activity, internal movements are aimed at, guided towards keeping the gross outer inert body still and steady. So what can we make out of the car or of any other inert object? Visibly, the inert object is still, but internally, within itself, there is a lot of movement. Hmm? Therefore, this is a stationary object, but still there is movement and stillness both. Can anybody say there is no movement in any inert object? No, isn't it? Hmm? Just that we are not able to perceive the movement externally unless the car is turned on and moves and driven. So, unless there is an external force, which is the force of the fuel and the ignition, the power given to the engine by the fuel, the car doesn't move. Same case with any other thing. The chair will remain in the place where it is unless somebody picks it up and moves it elsewhere. Which means what? For an external movement to be visible, there is a need for an external force. But the chair or the car, as it stands wherever it is, within itself, there is an extensive perpetual movement through activities at the atomic level. Now, what about the other category, like the tree? What do we say of the tree? The mics and the cameras are open. Would anybody like to share? What would you say of the tree? Plants, trees. Then the other categories that
It has got
have,
life.
it's got
Uh,
life. Yes,
but it is stationary.
it is stationary.
Its branches and leaves can move, but the whole tree cannot move from one place to another.
Branches and trees can move, whole tree cannot move. It's anchored to the ground by its root. Very nice. What else?
The
How does
trees,
the tree grow?
it draws nutrition from the earth, gets the sunlight.
Ah,
Water.
it has its potential within the seed.
Yeah, it
Yes.
has, it has.
So is the growth internal from inside out?
It has got a potential, and it derives the energy from the sun and the earth and the nutrients, and it starts
Wo-
growing. But
Wonderful.
basically, all the software is embedded in the
Seed.
seed.
Yes. So, why have we taken the tree? Because it is a little the next level category when compared to the inert object. Like the observation wonderfully made, they have life because how do they have life?
They exhibit growth.
They exhibit growth. What about the car? They are put together in the assembly line in a manufacturing unit. Unless an intelligent force and a mechanical force puts different components of an object together to make a product, the car will not come into existence. Is the tree put together like that? No.
It's a natural growth.
It is natural. It like Ganeshanji said, it draws nutrients from the earth, but what grows? The nutrients don't grow. The seed grows. So this is that is why we say there is life in the tree, because it is able to grow by internally, of course, with the aid of the external support. Okay,
Yes,
nutrient.
It develops from a tiny seed also into
Correct.
something larger.
Yes.
But the car size and all remains the same. It's only the
Yes.
movement that happens with the external force. Whereas a tree that way has some sort of a life which impels it to move a bit, in the sense not physically move from one place to the other, but at least it lives. I mean, the nutrition and the water being sucked in through the roots from the soil and all that. And
Wonderful.
then
Great,
yeah.
Malti.
Yeah,
Great.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much. See, everything has come out in the tree. So we can actually, we have actually cracked the puzzle of the tree in terms of movement and stillness very well. So here, how is the movement? The movement is actually anchored movement. That means,
Tree has
can
tree has
somebody
life
who's
and
not talking, please mute? Thank you so much. When you have to respond, you can unmute
tree has
and
life and
respond.
sensation. Tree has life and sensation. Whereas
Tree
car
has life and sensation. Yes, yes. Wonderful.
It also helps for the human being, giving oxygen, as well as it helps to power of
Yes,
eyes, and every
yes.
part is useful for a life.
Wonderful. Yes. Every part is useful. Every part, it has life. So the tree exhibits growth, but the movement here is a combination of both internal and external. Internal because from a sapling you can see the tree growing. I mean the sapling, the sprout going into a plant, small plant, then into a big tree, then bearing flowers, then fruits, then the seeds, all of it. So it seems to be moving from inside on its size. At the same time, when the wind blows, the tree also sways. So there is one level of extra freedom in the tree that an inert object doesn't have. So though it moves, it can't move from one place to another. Within a given place, it exhibits a certain level of limited movement. That is why we have put here that it is anchored movement. Now here we can see visible movement external and also the inspired internal movement as growth in the tree. But It's limited to being in one place. Of course, we they transplant trees one spot to another along with the roots. That's a different thing. But for that, the rest of the things, there is movement that is visible. It moves from within and also moves to external breeze and other nature's forces, which is visible. It is anchored movement. What about other living creatures like the human beings? Humans and other living creatures have an added complexity. No doubt, the body is subject to external forces and can move. For example, if a strong wind blows, a hurricane blows, now if we step out of the house in the open field, we will be carried away very, very quickly. So we have to be very, very careful about those external forces. But there is also an innate internal energy that puts the human being and other living beings into motion. What makes us get up every day morning without somebody waking up? That's the internal energy. That is the life force. That is the force, the energy of the being encased within the body. And the human being here has a free movement, both from within and outside. He can not only move where he or she is, but he or she can move from one place to another. The added complexity with human beings and all other living creatures is that not only the body moves, the mind also moves.
The intellect and the will are, I think, sort of together in impelling us to move. If we want to move, we can, because there's an intellect also which the human being
Yes.
has. Again, if I suppose it's linked in a way to the mind.
Correct.
And
Yes.
then we have the willpower also, and the what shall I just I mean, it's like we just think we want to get off a bed or we'll stand up in a place, and then it just happens because we have that coordination of the two.
Actually, nice question, Malti. But before the willpower kicks in,
Right.
while lying on the bed,
Uh,
there is, unless the life force continues
yeah.
in the body while asleep,
Yeah.
we won't be able to get up. Willpower,
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
willpower kicks in after we get up. The mind has to be active for the willpower to kick in.
Willpower. Yeah. So the mind is the most important thing here.
Yeah, not the, I wouldn't say that, but these are the factors that influence human beings.
Right. Right.
Okay. Let's suspend judgment on whether what is important, what is not important.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
We can arrive at it after sufficient vichara or analysis.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
All right. So
Right.
so here is the thing. While the tree has 1 degree of freedom, one directional freedom for movement inside and outside, the human beings, the body and the mind both move. And this is the complex situation for the human being. But the crux of the whole thing is that For example, with a human being, can the body remain in one place and the mind be in movement? Can you be listening here to this talk and the mind be elsewhere? Yes,
Yes, it
can be.
is possible.
All right, the other way also. Can you be listening to this talk and be doing something else dynamically with some activity?
Yes.
Yes. So, movement and stillness with living beings are both visible, and the stillness, of course, is inside. The movement is outside. The body's natural tendency is to move because it has pranic energy, the life force, the vital energy. Even when we sit to listen to a talk or in a classroom or sit for meditation, after a minute, we will twitch the body and turn a little bit here and there. Why? We cannot contain the energy for long. So, in the case of living beings, the stillness is subtle. The movement is natural, subtle and internal. Whereas in the case of inert object, stillness is outside. Movement is inside at the atomic level. But what is common in all three? Stillness and movement. Isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Therefore, what can be concluded here? There is movement in stillness and stillness in movement. Why do the metal particles at the subatomic level move in the car in an inert object? To keep the overall object or the car steady. Isn't it? Why does the human being, the internal subtle consciousness, be still and steady in a human being and living beings? In order to provide energy for the body and the mind to move and engage in life. Without stillness, without the internal stillness of human consciousness, the human body and mind are dead matter. Therefore, if somebody asks what is the use of consciousness or awareness, then we just have to observe our own body without consciousness, without awareness. We will be just flesh, blood, bones, and muscles and fat, with all the organs intact but incapable of any intelligence or any activity. Therefore, don't mistake movement for lack of stillness, and don't mistake stillness for lack of movement. Movement and stillness go hand in hand, not just in living beings, even in the world of objects, the stars, the galaxies, the mountains, the rivers. If the river is moving, the river bed is still, the river bank is still. Without the river bank being still, the water cannot flow. Imagine the river bank and the river bed also moving with the water. Then immediately it would have given way. That's what has happened in Chennai, I hear from Nirmala ji. the lake bed has given way, Lake Bund has given way, and the locality, due to heavy rains, have flooded. Many areas, many residential areas. So we'll offer our prayers for the welfare and safety of all property and living beings so that they recover quickly to normalcy. So what is the takeaway from this? Movement and stillness are actually inseparable. If we focus on movement, then we can't recognize stillness. If we focus on stillness, then movement can be recognized in a human being, and that will give purpose and meaning to the movement. Isn't it? Therefore, what is the exploration of still objects? What does science do? It's trying to find out the energy within the objects that constitute the stillness, that constitute the stillness of the object. That is why there is a lot of discussion and investigation or at the atomic level, subatomic level, quantum level. What is spirituality then? It is the investigation of stillness within every movement. Is there a difference? Only thing is, when we investigate matter, we go to the energy that creates movement, that makes energy, the existence of matter, possible. But energy is also matter. We are finding out, we are going into some more of matter. Whereas when we try to investigate stillness in every movement going within, then we are moving from matter to consciousness. All right. Therefore, if we look at this and move ahead, what happens when we see an object? We see a lotus flower blooming, and the eyes that see. Now, here what is happening? A conscious entity is meeting an inert entity. Now, when I say I see the flower, what happens? There is some information that goes through the sense organs, which is the eyes. What goes through the eyes? Obviously, the flower doesn't go through the eyes. What goes through the eyes? Only light, isn't it? And as the eyes process rays of light that contains some information, coded information about the flower, within the eyes and inside the brain, the light gets converted into bioelectrical signals. And that electrical signal gets reconverted into an image of the lotus flower in the retina of the human brain. So the human being, the sense organs and the brain is a fantastic converter. Even when we hear the sound of a bell, or a sound of a music through the ears, what goes to the brain is not the sound. What goes to the brain from the ears is an electrical impulse, which the neurons take it and pass it on to the retina to reconvert it into an image. So the image of the object is formed in the screen of the brain. Now, this is where the crux of the matter is, in finding out the heart of the object. When the image is in the object, then finally the brain further, using the intellect, concludes that this is a lotus by using its past memory and comparing it with the present information. Now, in this whole scheme of things, how did the human being conclude that this flower is a lotus? Where did he conclude? Where did he conclude?
Concludes in the mind.
In the mind only, isn't it? Therefore, the question to ask of us, if we have to actually dive deep into the object, is the object really external or within? And how sure am I that I am seeing the real lotus?
I think it's within, because we it's only from within that you can sort of analyze the fact whether it's the real lotus or not.
Correct. But even that judgment within, how sure are we? How sure that our judgment is not colored? Nothing. So what can be said about the object that is seen? Nothing can be said very in all certainty about the object that is seen. What can be said? We can only say the object that my eyes are seeing appears like a lotus to me. And what does Vedanta say? Suspect all appearances. Very funny situation, isn't it?
Sir, it is scientifically, when the object is seen, then it goes to the retina, that stimulates into the brain, and the object is seen. That's scientifically, but you are telling Adhyatma is quite different.
No. Even scientifically, the lotus doesn't go into the brain.
Yeah. Of course. It's only the image, like a camera, what we
Not
take.
even the image. Only the light particles go, and the light is everywhere. The eyes can see light. What goes into the ear? Sound waves, not the music, not even the voice, the sound of the speech. The sound waves, the sound of the voice, the sound of the music is converted into waves, and the sound waves goes to the ears. Right? Now, there is absolutely no 100% correlation that can be arrived at between what is seen or heard or smelt or felt externally and what is concluded internally. No one can ever say whether it is reality or a product of imagination. How sure am I as I see the lotus, that the lotus, so beautiful in all its color, is not a product of my imagination? I can never be sure. And this is the paradox. What I know for sure, I am not sure of. What I am sure of, I know I exist. I'm sure of my existence. Can anybody say for each one of us, for ourselves, that I don't exist? I means each one of us to ourselves? No, even to say I don't exist, I must be there to say that. So I exist. I'm sure of my existence, but I know nothing about it. I claim to know everything about the flower, but I cannot be sure even 0.1% about it, whether it's real or imaginary. Why? Because we have not engaged in vichara of what is happening in and around us. And the moment vichara is not analysis, it is calling upon the higher faculty to use discrimination. The moment we actually discriminate who sees whom and where is the decision being taken, and is the decision free from color, or is it a product of imagination, or is it influenced by a third party, then we will start getting into reality of both the object and the subject. Otherwise, we will imagine things to be real and psych ourselves with unreality. And we will pass off reality as unreal. Both ways it is dangerous, isn't it? If our judgment is colored and I judge unreal things as real, and in that very judgment I pass off reality as unreal, and unreal I hold as reality, then I'm in a maze of the whirlpool of Maya, isn't it? So, what do the sages say? Investigate. Now, what did they say? They didn't say investigate the flower or the world. They said investigate yourself, the subject that sees the object. Why? As is the microcosm, so is the macrocosm. As is Brahmanda, so is Pindanda. How? There is space in the universe and there are objects, matter in the universe. Brahmanda. There is space in the body, in this individual, and there is matter in this body. So there is movement in the universe and there is stillness in the universe, which means the underlying order that keeps the universe in its rhythm. Look at the individual, the microcosm. There is movement and also stillness of consciousness. So there is no difference between microcosm and macrocosm. Microcosm is the same as macrocosm. Microcosm is a replica of macrocosm, except for one thing, for scale. If you consider the scale or the quantity, macrocosm is huge, and the individual, the microcosm, is very small, insignificant. but in quality, in essence. There is no difference between microcosm and macrocosm. Therefore, what is the intelligent approach? Would you like to explore and crack the stars and the galaxies that are millions and millions and trillions of light years away? Or will we find out the truth about ourselves, which is so immediately available to us 24/7/365 from birth to death? What is more available? To see the stars, you will need a telescope. You have to go to the observatory. To observe our own mind, where do we have to go? That is why the sages said, by knowing yourself, you will know the world. They didn't say the reverse. Know the world and you will know yourself. That's a twisted logic. Though they are equal, it's very difficult to engage in the investigation of macrocosm and complete the investigation. It's impossible. Why? Because it's a play of Maya. It keeps on changing you. By the time you know something, that would have already changed. Whereas if we know our own mind, the essence of our mind and the ego, you would have cracked it because its behavior is the same. Only we have to have the eye and the interest to observe ourselves. So when we know this, when we when we investigate our own mind, why we are talking so much about the mind? Because the mind is the source of bondage as well as a tool for liberation. Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. If the mind is adulterated, then it will see real things as unreal. If the mind is clear, clean, sharp, and pure, it will see reality in everything. Therefore, instead of being mesmerized by the world, if we are only mesmerized by our own being, why? Because I am the most interesting thing to myself. Can there be anything more interesting to me than my own being? Nothing ever, isn't it? Why? Because that is the one that is giving me the experience of life. And that is the one that is also giving me the knowledge of the world and the ability to discriminate between what is real and unreal. Therefore, there need not be any other motivation or inspiration to go into the depths of our being, except for this fact that objects, external objects or internal objects, no matter what, they don't remain objects when it gets touched by an enlivened being. What happens to the object? It becomes knowledge. First, it becomes an experience, and the root of all experience is the wisdom, the knowledge. For example, a physical example that Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj gives beautifully is what happens to the food that is eaten, the rice, the chapati, the curry, the vegetables, that are eaten, sambar, rasam, curds, they are different grains. Will it remain rice when we consume it? Will sambar remain sambar when we have it inside? No. What happens? Everything gets converted to
Chemicals.
body, flesh, blood, bones, fat, right? Chemicals are later produced by the by the physiology of the organs. Hormones and all the other things are produced later on after it has got converted into tissues. And so ultimately, anything that is eaten doesn't remain as food. It gets converted into body. That is why it is called Annamaya Kosha. Everything gets converted. If there is any efficient converter in the world, that is the human body. It converts anything and everything that is consumed, physical food, water, into the physical body. And any air that is consumed, it gets converted into prana or vitality or energy. That is why there is growth in the body and there is movement due to prana. Both of these are triggered internally, though of course it's supported by external means. Therefore, no object ever remains an object. When a sentient being comes in proximity with it, in recognition with it, it gets converted to experience. And the root of all experience is knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of the self. So if I get to know the knowledge of the self, I get to know the final converted thing that happens, whether it's real or unreal. No doubt can ever exist at that deepest level. So when we see an object, what do we actually see? Even when I see another human being, for example, if I see Vani, my dear wife, what can I see of her? What can I see of any other human being or objects? I can only see names and forms, isn't it? Now, one may say, I can hear them talk, but even the speech is a form. It's a name and form. It's an object, the sound. The behavior, only when we cannot even see the emotions of another human being. When the emotions get expressed as a behavior, that is what we can see. Therefore, Driktasya Viveka teaches us one wonderful phenomenon. What is available to the sense organs? Eyes, ears, nose, skin, and tongue are only objects, which are names and forms. But how do the names and forms appear? There must be something behind it and unseen. Can it appear from nowhere? No, isn't it? For example, if we take a movie or a play, drama, what do we see on the screen? Who do we see on the screen? The hero the heroine, the villain, and all the actors, the locality, all we see on the screen. Do we ever see the director on the screen or the musicians on the screen? They are in the background, but they have contributed to the movie, isn't it? Do we see the editor at all? So there are many forces working below the level of senses in order for things to be made available to the senses. That is why there is even a colloquial saying that there is an unseen hand before everything that is seen. They also say, isn't it? Behind every successful man is a woman. Even this meditation and study circle, you see me and Vani, but are there only two people working? There are many, many volunteers working in the background. So what is the denominator of name and form? What is the substratum of what is seen or experienced? That is existence, consciousness, and bliss. Now, this is not really seen by itself, but seen through the name and form. The name and form act as very good tool or instruments for the expression of existence, knowledge or wisdom, which is the shine, the ability to cognize, and the ability to be happy, attraction. And this is not what this is told several thousands of years back, hundreds of years back in Drisya Viveka. What does Drisya Viveka teach us in the 20th shloka? Asti bhati priyam namam rupam cha ityamsha cha panchakam. Every object has 5 characteristics. Asti, bhati, priyam, existence, shine, and attraction, and rupam, nama, name and form. Adyatrayam Brahma Rupam, the first 3, the one at the denominator, the one below, the one unseen. Adyatrayam Brahma Rupam belongs to Brahman. That is why it is unseeable. Though it is unseen, it is unseeable, except when it gets attached to any instruments that can be seen, touched, heard, smelt, or tasted. Jagat Rupam Tatodvayam. The other 2, the one in the numerator, name and form, they belong to the world, the gross world. Therefore, only name and form are available to sense organs. Then are we doomed? Can't we not recognize existence, shine and attraction, Satchit Ananda at all? How then did this come about? It's all the play of Maya. So what is exposed? What is available outer? Name and form. What is embedded? Sat, Chit, Ananda. And here lies the mystery and the hope also. Because in every form and name, there is Sat, Chit, Ananda. We only have to use our discriminatory eye to see through the name and form Brahman, or the witness that shines ever forth immediately, not sometime later. not somewhere deep embedded inside, but available outside. The very fact that the name and form appears is a proof for the expression of consciousness. Consciousness is immediately and directly available through form. Existence also is immediately and directly available through form. The only thing is, bliss, we have to work a bit. Though it is available, we miss it because our focus is on the numerator, not on the denominator. All right? So how did this mix-up come about? There are two powers of Maya. We all know that. The projecting power and the veiling power. Vikshepa and Avarana. Projection, Vikshepa. Avarana is the veiling power. Now this veiling power acts in two places. What are they? Do you think Maya acts only on the universe? It acts in two places. One is on the individual. On the individual, the twin powers of Maya act. How does it act? It projects internally thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Where? On the screen of the mind. And the very projection of thoughts, feelings, and emotions, because we take them to be real, it obscures the light of witness within. The witness itself, the light of the witness in the individual, the reflected witness, is what makes life possible, experiences possible. But because of the projecting power of Maya within the individual, the thoughts, feelings, and emotions are so attractive, so enamoring, that the human mind forgets the light of the witness or Sakshi that is enlivening the whole individual. Now, on the world, also the same process happens. On the world, the play of Maya projects names and forms of objects. And what do that names and forms cover up? They cover up Brahman or Ishvara, the substratum of all names and forms, which is the existence. So Maya acts in both the places, individually and on the world, on the individual as on the world. In the individual, Sakshi is covered up and I become the Jivatma. That means I think I am the moving entity. I don't recognize the stillness. In the world, universe, the same very power of Maya, the projecting power of Maya, projects names and forms of objects in the world in such large variety that I fail to recognize the existence aspect in the world, which is Brahman or Ishvara, the truth behind all names and forms, the common thing behind every name and form, which is the existence. Therefore, our sadhana must be two-pronged approach. On one side, I must uncover the covering of my own Sakshi within me, to recognize the stillness of Atma Sakshi or Atma Jyoti, the light of the witness. Why? Because that is the stillness. Otherwise, I'll think movement only is real. Whereas within every movement, there is stillness. There is light that gives us experience. Now, why should I also address the world? Because it's the world that is giving me the experience. And if I don't crack the world through meditation, the reality of the world through meditation, the reality of the object, then I will take the objective world to be real. But within every name and form is the existence that is common. Therefore, Driktrishya Viveka says, Maya has two powers. One power is the projecting power that projects both on the Sakshi, as thoughts and feelings in the mind, individual mind, and it projects objects in the world. Right? On the second side, the very names and forms, thoughts and feelings, cover up the Sakshi within the individual and Brahman in the universe, the universal energy in the universe. Now, please remember, in spite of the projection or covering, nothing has ever happened to Sakshi or Brahman. It has still remained. Only thing is, masi katkondide ashte, covering. The glass of the lantern has got covered with soot, black soot or smoke. So what is all our sadhana about? Clearing the soot. And then with every experience, when we clear the soot of the glass covering of the lantern, with every experience, with every object, with every thought, with every feeling, we can see the light of the self shining through it. Not somewhere deep inside, at the very surface of the experience. So when Driktrishya Viveka teaches us Maya is doing all these things, it is also giving us the hope and the means of how to overcome the illusory impact of Maya. So what is the whole purpose therefore? The whole sadhana is to uncover the covering. We can do nothing about the projection. The projection will continue. The covering will also continue but become transparent through the eye of wisdom. Imagine an individual developing an X-ray vision. He'll be able to see through the black glass covering the light that is burning inside. But the sadhana on the mind is about cleaning the black glass cover to make it shining and transparent so that it becomes a day-to-day living experience, not something of a yogic experience only during meditation. What is developing an X-ray vision? Some extrasensory power that is got through meditation and other techniques that comes into light only during the power of that practice. What is jnana therefore? A painstaking cleaning of the glass cover so that the glass cover becomes transparent, and every day in the waking, dreaming, and sleeping state, I can experience the light of the self. What else is needed? That's all. Isn't it? So what is the method recommended? I'm reminded of a famous quote by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. And there is this illustrative picture. Where is the attention of the baby? On the toys. The baby is playing with the toys. It's busy playing with the toys. All the attention is with the toys. Where is the attention of the mother? Does the mother bother about the toys? She bothers about the baby. So all her attention, whatever she is doing, is on the baby. So what does Nisargadatta Maharaj say? The child is after the toy. The mother watches the child, not the toy. How do we apply it? The mind is constantly interested in the world, people, objects, but the witness, the awareness is interested in the mind itself. So watch the mind. To watch the mind, we cannot be at the level of mind. We have to move behind to the level of the witness. Therefore, as witness, when we watch the mind will be shown, the light of that witness will shine on all the contents and the working of the mind. It will expose all the nook and corner and the crevices that has collected dirt and dust. And therefore, it will be easy for you to clean. And that is the miracle of witnessing. Just be a sakshi. In that sense, witnessing is not active doing, but only actively seeing without being engaged in what is happening. Once this happens, the mind gets purified. Now, initially, this has to be a practice. Nisargadatta Maharaj is saying, do your work. When you have every moment free, look within. What is important is not to miss the opportunity when it presents itself. I'm reminded of his sadhana. He says in the chronicle, he used to be owning a petty shop, a small shop, beetle leaf and hurgadu, and then all these cigarette, bidi, small little shop, neighborhood shop. He says on some days, he used to be having 14-hour workday with a lot of customers. But even on those busy days, there would be at least a minute or a minute and a half between two customers. And he used that to ask himself, if I am not the body, who am I? If I am not who I think I am, who am I therefore? That is what his teacher, Sri Siddharameshwar Ji Maharaj, told him to inquire. So it is important not to miss every single opportunity that life presents. If no time is available, just before we go to bed, we just ask ourselves, okay, I've done the whole day's work. Who am I? What is the meaning of this activity? Who has accomplished this? Who is behind this? So this is a path of great karma yoga and jnana yoga. What does Ramana say in the top? A beautiful statement. The body will not claim I. I did it. The body doesn't claim. The ego claims I did it. The sleep will not say I am not. In the sleep, there is nobody to say I am not there. So when the I rises in the waking state, everything else rises. Enquire with a keen mind whence this I rises. A wonderful way of Atma Vichara. Initially, it is a practice. Like we charge our mobile battery every day. When we charge the mobile battery, when we recharge the mobile battery, what happens? We are able to turn it on and use it for talking. When we engage in self-inquiry every day, our body, mind, intellect is recharged with what? With the light of the witness. And then when we step out into the world, we will have energy to interact in the light of the witness, in the wisdom of the light of the witness. Now, through the interactions, the energy will keep declining, decreasing. So we have to keep recharging. So every day we recharge till such time. In the physical process, the battery needs recharge every day. But once the mind is convinced that it is not the doer or the experiencer or the knower, it is the light of the witness that enables all doing, experiencing, and knowing through the instruments, then the change is permanent. In the case of the mind, the change is reversible. In any physical object, the change is very difficult to reverse. And this is the crux of watching. Any free time we get, during the pause, I am listening to the talk. Who is listening? I am giving a talk. Who is giving the talk? There is possibility of self-inquiry at every stage. I am eating the food. Who eats the food? What is the source of the eating the food? So, no opportunity need to be missed. Mata Amritanandamayi gives a very good recommendation to her devotee when he comes and says, I don't have time for sadhana. She says, don't you travel by bus from your house to the ashram? Yes. How long does it take? 45 minutes, Amma, from my house to ashram. Okay, in that 45 minutes, think of the Lord. Think of your Ishta Devata. If we are caught in a traffic jam, instead of cursing the traffic, think why am I agitated? Inquire into who am I. So gradually there will come a time when this state of operating from the position of the light of witness becomes more and more natural. When that happens, we'll say that the difference between a jnani and an ordinary person is that a jnani knows that everything that happens will ultimately bring about balance and harmony. Temporary disturbances happen in the world around, but ultimately everything comes to a state of balance and harmony. And he says the heart of all things is at peace. That means even when I am disturbed, even when I am frustrated, even when I experience the most difficult of the times, the heart of that experience is still peace, stillness. From that stillness, experience rises and experience falls. The experience has never been permanent. No experience has been permanent. No state has been permanent, whether physical or mental. But the recognition of the variable states of the body and the mind, that is ever shining, always available. Thank you. Hari Om. I offer this understanding to my beloved teacher, Sri Prabhuji, and this whole session as a Jnana Yajna. Thank you for your patient listening.